Right.
What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Michelle Renee from IamMichelleRenee.com. And today I'm excited to have yet another dope Black woman. This time, this amazing dope Black woman is here, but she's definitely repping so many other places. So I have with me the beautiful Janice Daphne. Sis,
Thank
tell
you.
everybody who you are, where you're from, where you are, and what your brand is.
I thank you so much for this opportunity. I've been looking forward to this for quite some time to have a
Yes.
little girl chat with you because I think you a totally dope Black mom, dope Black woman.
Thank you.
I am from the motherland, people. I
Yes.
am African. Woo, woo.
Yes, yes,
I'm
yes,
from
yes.
South Africa. I carry it proud every day, my little piece of Africa with me. Born and raised in Cape Town. Spent all my life there, left at somewhere in my 20s. I lived in London, England for about 3 years before moving to the United States. I followed a boy. I was that chick that followed a boy, and here I am.
I think
And
we all
I,
have a story like that, right?
yeah, I think so too. And here I am, no longer with a boy, but I do have two amazing boys, teenage boys. I have the privilege of being a stepmom to a wonderful, precocious, bright spark little 6-year-old boy. I live in Boynton Beach, Florida at the moment, and my brand is Just Dialogue. Janice Daphne, Just Dialogue, and it's exactly what it implies. Just dialogue, a lot similar to what you are doing around women empowerment,
Yes.
and specifically for women in the divorce community. It's not exclusive to the women in divorce community, but given my experience and how this all got birthed stemmed out of that pain and devastation and the aftermath of divorce and rebuilding. So
Yeah.
that's really the community that I have been working alongside very closely for the last 11 years. And it is helping them rebuild. We spend so much time and energy pushing through to
Yeah.
get to that finish line of divorce. And once you cross over and the judge says, "Here's your decree," then you go, "Ah, okay, but now what?"
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's where I come in. I did a life coaching certification with the University of Miami. So I partner that with what I was already doing just to give a more full umbrella of support for the women or I've helped guys as well, not just exclusively to women, where they find themselves in that stuck transitory phase of how do I cross over to what's next? Doesn't necessarily have to be divorce. That is my extensive experience, but it can also be in career. It
Yeah.
can also be in moving. I've moved continents. What does that look like?
Not once, but twice, right?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, meeting them where they're at. I currently have a program that I curated, a curriculum called Divorced and the Single Mom. And it's a 6 weeks program that I take women in groups. They've all been personal recommendations of women that I've helped over the years and finding similar trends and also a lot of my experience too. Created this curriculum that we take women through on a 6 weeks. It is based in faith. That is the basis for everything that I do, pardon me, so it stands to reason that that would be a large part of what the
Absolutely.
curriculum is based in faith. Because if you do not believe in something, someone, some being higher than yourself, going through a divorce, rebuilding after a divorce, going through any adversity or any tragedy is tough. But without that element that you can lean on the days that you just don't have an ounce, you literally don't have an ounce. That's
Yeah.
where that kicks in and takes you further than you could have imagined.
Absolutely. I think something that's really major is the fact that you're really normalizing conversations around divorce. We can't have a 50% divorce rate or whatever the rate of divorce
More than
is.
50%. Yeah.
Okay, that's insane, first and foremost, because it's like
Yeah.
people are marrying just to become divorced later, right?
Yeah.
And we can't have those such high rates and not have conversations around what happens as a result of it, or the aftermath of it, or how to navigate past it, because so many people feel like it's either an end all be all, or they're immediately ready to jump back into some type of next situation that
Yeah.
leaves them dependent on someone else, which is not healthy either. And I love that you're normalizing
Right.
these conversations around, what do I do next, what's going to happen, how do I get through this very difficult, life-changing event, not just for myself, but if I have
Yeah.
children, or if I have, loved ones. When people divorce, the same way when people die, everybody's affected. It's not just
It's
the
a
two people
grieving.
that are getting divorced.
It's a grieving, and the person is still alive.
Yeah.
And not only is the person still alive, if there are children involved, in most cases they are, you still have to communicate with this person you grieving and
Yeah.
trying to figure that out, because you have your precious little darlings caught in the middle. I refer to them as being casualties of war. If you and your former husband, former spouse, uh, are not on the same page or can't
Right.
communicate effectively well together, immediately you have people in your very close circle that will be affected by that, and so will you. So it's an ongoing grieving. And let me tell you, I've been divorced now 11 years. I just remarried last year, and it never the complication of co-parenting never quite goes away. It's almost like parenting your kids. Just when you hit an easy patch, out of nowhere, the next day they flip a switch and they become something else, and then you're in a new phase, and now you got to figure out, well, how are we going to navigate this? And then you get through it, and then the next one comes up behind you. So too with your former spouse. Like, there's moments where communication is great, and then there are moments where you just get set back 10 minutes from a trigger,
Yeah.
that occurs because you have history with this person. They know how to push your buttons. They know how to you know how to push their buttons. And off we go. So
Yes.
it's a very intricate, a very intricate dance to consider. And then there's the financial implication for women, right? Women are more often than not at the disadvantage financially coming out of a divorce.
Yes.
It's the percentage of women that come out on top is minimal.
Right.
And not only do they come out disproportionately at a disadvantage financially, they in some cases now have to go back into the workforce. Well, what does that look like? How do
Right.
I build my finances on my own? How do I get back into the workforce? Because as stay-at-home moms, which is the hardest job on planet Mother Earth, don't get enough credit for it. They often discredit the skills that they've had running their home empire. You
Exactly.
know, they had to meal plan, they had to budget, they had to do that. Those are all transferable skills. But
Yes.
when you come out of that fog of divorce, that aftermath, you can't seem to think what makes logistical sense, or compartmentalize, because it's so emotional. Like, there's a
Absolutely.
big
You can't see
emotional
through it.
component. You
You can't see
can't.
through
And
it.
so
Yeah.
having a community or having someone that can hold your hand and go, okay, we're gonna look at this, we're gonna look at this, we're gonna look and go through it systematically, it really helps. And it came because I didn't have that. I was looking for that. I had to figure it out on my own. Not only did I have to figure it out on my own, I was an immigrant at the time as well.
Mhm.
So I didn't know my complete rights. I had to research and find out, what exactly are my rights as
Right.
a permanent resident. Um, you know, uh, is my immigration status in jeopardy if I go through this? I did not know that. No one tells you those things. And there's no place to turn to for that. And so, having to navigate that, I swore I was not going to let this experience be in vain. That there are so many others that can be helped by someone taking the hand and going, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, and so on. And then I'm not a therapist, but I do fully and 100% support therapy. I went
Absolutely.
through it. I went through it for two
Absolutely.
years extensively before I even came to the decision that I wanted to proceed through this process of divorce. So that when I did get there, I knew, like I knew why I was doing it. There was no question in my mind and there was no turning back. I took myself on in an emotional roller coaster for 2 years and went to the places that I had come broken to the relationship looking to be fixed by someone else. And
Yeah.
I had to fix me first. So when I did that, and it's still a work in progress, right? We're not
Absolutely. We
perfect
all are.
beings.
We all are.
Yeah. But
Yes.
when I got there, it made the decision and the process move quicker because there wasn't that heavy emotion attached to it. I could then speak the language of divorce. Divorce as a language. And I didn't mention earlier that I've actually written a book about an instructional guide on
Yes.
how to follow these different areas. And I speak about the therapy, but in there, I also speak about divorce as a language.
Yeah.
It's a business. And the quicker women get to the decision that it's not an emotional process, it is a transaction, it is a
Yes.
business.
Very transactional.
It's a business. And if you approach it in that business sense, that you now have to, you had a business partner, you guys are falling out, you've got to salvage what you can for you, what you brought or what you contributed to the business, yours and only yours, your portion, and you got to come out with that.
Yeah.
And when you approach it like that, it takes that emotional sting out of it, and you can progress your way through it and traverse that journey very differently than if you stuck on the emotional side of divorce, which is this is what he did, this is what he didn't do, this is what he said, this is who he ran around with. You don't understand. This is how he is. Okay, he's all of those things. But right now, one of the things that women would often say early on, I just want to be done with it. And I get it because I wanted to be done with the
Right.
process too. And they would say, I just want to be done with it. I want the house. And obviously, I want 100% custody of the kids. And okay, that's great. But how are you going to pay to take care of your children? How are
And
you
this
going
house.
to pay to take care of the house? You
Yeah.
don't just get the house,
Yeah.
you have
Yeah.
to also look at it as what can I salvage my portion of the business so that I can keep my family afloat. And that's a big game changer when that switch can come on. And then I tell them, we'll deal with the emotional piece. There's a time for it. It's at the end. You
Yeah.
have the time to take yourself on, to look, not jumping something else right away. That time will come. But this is the time where you sit and you mourn the loss. But you can do that because you've now set yourself up, that you have something to take care of. You have a cushion, you have a bumper, maybe it's a half of a 401k or whatever assets was in it, that you rightfully got what was yours and no more. It's
Yeah.
not about gutting someone or taking them to the cleaners or trying to
Right.
get back at them. Just take what's fair, and if you have faith, God will see you through with the
Absolutely.
rest.
Absolutely. What is the name of the book? I want to talk about two things. I want to talk about the book and I want to talk about community. But what is the name
Okay.
of the book so we're able to locate that and make sure? I know it's available on Amazon, but
Yes.
it's a guide. So tell us a little bit more about the book and the journey to why you even decided to write such a
All
piece.
right. So the name of the book is Janice Daphne. That's the name I published under the New Little Black Book. Um, Sorry, people, disclaimer, you do have to dig through Amazon. It was published a while back, but I promise you it's there. It's called the New Little Black Book. And the why behind the book, it
Mhm.
was birthed out of a place in my very early on um, of helping or coaching women through the process of divorce. And at the end of it is how I kept on having the same conversations with different women, but the same conversations, and it just kept going. pardon me, and I thought, you know what? Actually, I'll be very transparent with you. It was spirit inspired, truthfully speaking. It had been coming on a while. I knew I'm very much a vivid dreamer, and I'm also a big journaler. I write a lot.
Yes.
Well, I'm a writer, so I write a lot. But I had the stirring and this nudging in me a couple years after the divorce, that it was probably about 4 years after the divorce, that I was going to write a book. And I thought, are you sure? I've never written a book. I don't know what to do. And I
When he
was,
gives you a vision, it's just that.
I
It's
know,
just,
right? I was running on the treadmill one morning and I literally stopped and my legs were bridged over the treadmill. I grabbed my phone and I started making notes as I felt being led. And then I went back running. And when I got back and I looked at my phone later that morning, what I had done was written the outline. I had chapters, headings, and I went, oh, okay, so this is happening.
mhm.
And when I eventually sat down and I said, all right, Lord, I'll be obedient. You give me the words, I will sit down and I will do it. You give me the format, the everything. And that's exactly how it happened. I sat down, I filled in the text that went beneath these bullet points, and I, over a process of 10 days, I took my kids to school in the morning. I did have the time off from work, so I had no distraction. And I took the time and I would write until it was time to get them, and then put them, do what I needed to do, and then put them to bed, and then write again until there was nothing left. And when I put the last period on and I look back, it was like, oh my gosh, there it is. There's the book.
Wow. Wow. That
There's
is
the
so
book.
faith driven. That's amazing.
Yeah, there was never a strain. There was never oh, what now? Never. It all flowed. It all flowed, and until it was done. And I've come to understand when that spirit, when the Holy Spirit nudges me, to be obedient in it, to not even question it. So it's so disciplined now that when I get those nudgings, I do it, and it's always with it's effortless and it's
Yeah.
with ease, right? That if I sat down and tried to make this happen, it wouldn't. The same thing that at my job for Women's History Month, I had this vision of creating a platform for women in tech to have a voice, to get to know them. I kid you not, the Holy Spirit gave me the whole layout and I put it together the next day and I presented it to our bosses and they were blown away by it, and it took off to the
Yeah.
point where we've now created a community for women in business in tech, which is like crazy. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, it really is. And my
I
latest
understand it firsthand. I get it. I get when the spirit says do something. Because even with doing this with this blog, it's like I did not understand it because this is not what I wanted to do. It's not what I set out to do in the beginning.
yeah,
I just wanted a place so I had a voice and was allowed to kind of vent some things that I was going through. And I was like, I sat and I was like, it's not working. And
yeah,
I said, well, God, I'm gonna give this to you because whatever you want me to do with it, you're gonna do with it. And he was like, I just want you to highlight women. Just do
yeah.
that. And I was like, what do you mean? Just do that. You'll understand. When I tell you what to do, you'll
Yeah,
understand. So I get it. And that walking in obedience is so powerful. And it's
yeah.
so freeing. People think that being obedient is a constraint, but it's actually a sense of freedom that you can't describe. So I get it.
It is the intrepidation, I think, or the hesitation for us humans coming when that vision is first nudged, or that vision is first shown to you, however he reveals it to you, and it's always something bigger than what you can imagine in that moment. So you're thinking, well, how in tarnation's name am I gonna make this happen? But when you take the I out of it and you just listen and you follow the step as simple as they can be, he paves the way. He paves the next 200 yards. He paves the next 200 yards so that when you're done with it and you looking back, we're living our life forward, but we understand it backwards. And you look
Mhm.
back and you go, okay, well, that wasn't a stretch at all. Um, that gives way to the next project I'm working on, which is setting up a 503c. It's going to be called Divorce and the Single Mom, DVSM, where what I'm working on now in these different sects that I talk about in the book, the therapy, the financial coaching, the health and wellness, the dating component, the co-parenting, which is huge and it's ongoing, life skills, getting back into a career path, all of these different silos I want to have under one umbrella for a nonprofit and create a society for women that will have a place, and it's a one-stop shop,
Yeah.
And how this came about was back in February. I had a conversation with my mother who still lives in South Africa, and she was telling me about how proud she is about us as her daughters. I have two other sisters who still live, younger sisters who live in South Africa. And she was telling me about, how some of the people in her senior circle lament, and some of the kids don't treat the senior so well. And how she was grateful that her daughters are overprotective. We sew this and we, fuss over her and so on. And as she's talking to me, I'm recognizing that my mom's talking about her legacy that she's left behind and how she's raised us
Yeah.
to be these,
Yes.
incredible caregivers. And we will now continue on that. And then I asked myself, well, what's my legacy? And I didn't know. So we ended the conversation. I went out on my daily walk, which I had a conversation with you once while I was out walking. I went out on my daily walk and I started lamenting over this. And I'm like, God, well, I know you have a purpose for me. And I know I am where I need to be helping women in this moment. But long term, what does this legacy look like? Because I'm not exactly sure. I
Right.
kid you not. I come back, I sit down, I open up my journal, and I start writing because I'm obedient. And I'm writing, I write the name, and then just, whatever's coming up, I'm free flowing, free flowing. And at the end of it, there were a couple pages full, and I read back what I'd written, and it didn't quite make sense. I'm like, oh, okay. I knew that, and this is when the 503c had come up. This was back in February, and I called my spiritual sister because I believe in having mentors that are further along that can help. Iron sharpens iron, can help
Absolutely.
pull us along.
Absolutely.
So I called her up and I go, and coincidentally, she has a ministry as well that she has with two other women that they work with women in the immigrant Muslim community
Mhm.
for Christianity. And I was telling her what this was, and I was reading to her what it is, and she said to me, "You did what?" And I read it again. She goes, "You don't know this because obviously I haven't had any work with nonprofit yet." She says, "But what your mission statement is exactly what a mission statement needs to be for a 503c."
Mhm.
She says, "Do you know how long and how hard it took us to come up because we needed to be specific,
Yeah.
and you've been that specific?" And then I went on to say not only the mission statement, I went on to list what the silos would be, where I would get the silos from, um, you know, divorce attorneys, maybe retired or judges retired, financial planners, and coaches, and physical trainers, personal trainers rather, and where I would get them as resources, and what the monthly newsletter would look like, what the program would be, all of this. She goes, "You have what you need to fill out a 503c." And I went, "I do?" She goes, "You don't even know it." And as talking to her, I'm like, "Yeah, but this makes no sense." She goes, "Of course it makes sense. Why are you even?" I said, "You're right, you're right, you're right." And I said, "But this is, I can't do this. This is so big." And that little voice, that God whisper says, as clear as day, "Build the ark, the rain will come."
Absolutely.
And I'm getting
Absolutely.
goosebumps just telling you that
You and
because I
me
was like,
both.
"What?"
Oh my gosh.
So I'm in the process of building the ark, and the rain will come.
Well, the ark, the rain will indeed come. The rain will indeed
Yeah.
come. I love that. Now, that leads into a great piece because all of this is about community. And this is something that you've done a while. So talk about the community that you have built as a result of this, of what you do for women who have gone through or are going through divorce. Talk a little bit about the community work and how this is going to lead into that nonprofit that you're working toward.
Yeah, you know, I've from, oh my goodness, how long ago now? It's been a while. I'd say a good solid 10 years that I've
Mhm,
been doing this. So there's been pockets of groups that have popped up
mhm.
that I have done that I still keep in touch with them, and help to see where and how they've grown and what they've done. So having them as a resource, and then having the word of mouth that it spread, because I didn't do anything through social media. This was way before using Facebook for the platform that it was
Yeah,
right now, or Instagram. Like, I didn't even know what Instagram was 10 years ago. Was it even around? I don't know. I know Facebook was. But anyway, I wasn't doing it. And so it
right.
was literally word of mouth. And when you are divorced, when you go through divorce, you lose a lot of friends very quickly, and you make friends in that community very quickly
Yeah,
because of the connection and the understanding of the journey. And so word kept on spreading. And then now I'm working with a completely different side, not divorce women, but empowering them even at work, which I never thought that I would have the ability to spotlight women in business. And it's a lot with diversity, it's a lot with inclusion, and then bringing in the ally piece as well, because in a work situation, we work with males too, and we need them as supporters. We need
yeah,
them to come on board as allies to understand how to work with us, or communicate and support and encourage. So I never thought that that would ever come into being, but that's
absolutely.
exactly it. And then during the pandemic, I started a couple groups where we did Zoom, where we've done through WhatsApp, Zoom, FaceTime. If they all had Apple devices, we kind of figured it out. I have in South Africa a few ladies that join, and we still meet weekly, and talk about it. Started just to have a place of outlets, because we were all globally going through the same thing, not just as mothers, but women of color, because then the uprising happened, and we're all women
Yes,
of color with kids, pardon me. And it has sprung into this own entity now that has had far reaching effects of their children benefiting by their moms having this outlet, and we us
absolutely.
speaking into one another, growing one another. We've done fasts together, we've done a 40-day prayer journal together. We constantly check in and pray for one another, and then we have a good old time with lots of humor. Lots of humor, because you
Which
got to
is
keep it real.
necessary. Necessary because nobody wants to call in to the group and it's all a cry fest or a
Yeah,
sad fest. You
yeah.
need to
And
have that uplifting, right?
you're right. You do. And if you don't feel like talking today, it's okay. Just listen. But
Yeah.
be with us. Don't isolate. Don't pull away. I started a group here locally too. I was back in September. We call ourselves Black Girl Magic. And we meet
Yes.
we meet for brunches every month. And we actually planning a goals weekend away, and it will be a goals weekend away based with the spiritual component, but also a lot of fun that goes with it too. And again, it's a different group, seasoned women, all dope Black moms, dope Black
Yes.
chicks.
Yes.
Um, but it's that experience that we get to speak into one another, and that most importantly, we are not doing life alone.
That's
Life
right.
is tough enough as it is. We do not need to be at it alone.
That's why I'm so big on the communal tribe mindset when it comes to women, because we weren't designed to be in a space where you're navigating everything alone and you're living in this place alone. Like, we're supposed to lean on one another. We're supposed to have our sisters that we lean into for these different
Yeah,
things. If you're going through an experience, it's so that I can learn from it, so I don't
yeah,
necessarily have to go through it in the same way. And
in
so
the
I
same
think
way.
I think we're finally on a trajectory to get back to that, where we can really honor those relationships and honor the importance and the power of sisterhood, right?
I agree. And I think the pandemic gave us that gift
Yes.
of recognizing what is important, and that it truly takes a village whatever your village looks like, whatever my village looks like, it has its place in society, and it has its place in our lives.
Absolutely.
To be able to do life together, to help carry each other's loads. In South Africa, we have a saying, it's Ubuntu. It basically means the humanity in me, the God in me, recognizes the God in you. I am because you are. And I believe that the pandemic gave us that, to
Yeah.
recognize the humanity in one another, and
Yes.
that we need to do life together.
We have to. We have to be in that place where we honor every portion of one another, because it's what makes us better. It's what makes us who we are. And
Yeah.
so I'm excited to be able to share you in this space, in creating all of these different things to make sure that people know, that women specifically know, that you're not alone in this journey, that
No.
listen, I've gone through it, so you don't have to go through it. And I've created a guide for you so you can navigate. And I've even created a community for you so you don't feel alone in this process.
Yeah.
Because we know it happens. It happens more often than not. Um, and we look at every relationship and we wish them all the best, and we want them to persevere and overcome. But some situations don't need to be persevered through, and some situations need to only be gotten over, but not overcome. So I think it's
Yeah.
important to recognize that. And I love that with you being a woman of faith, understanding that there has always been this stigma. We understand that we have to release the mindset that God doesn't want you to be miserable. So he's not going to leave you in a place or in a relationship or in a space that's going to destroy who you are and who he created you to be. He wants you to be exactly who he made you to be, which is beautifully and fearfully and wonderfully made. And you can't be that if you're operating from a place of misery, you know?
Absolutely.
So I think that's so
Absolutely.
important to just, like I said, normalize these conversations. I think this is amazing.
You bring up a key reason that catapulted me into the journey that I went on and start the community that I did. Was I did not find solace and comfort in the church.
Yeah.
Not in the church that I was going to at the time. I didn't find it there. I lost so many friends as in the process. It's like I had a plague. Like, don't
Yeah.
bring that divorce stuff up in near me or my business, And this was the church people. That's when my faith, that's when my relationship, that's when I abandoned religion, and I
And you got a relationship.
truly jumped into relationship. I didn't
Yes.
understand
Yes.
relationship until this catastrophic event that I went through. And that was the only thing I had, was relationship. Religion abandoned me, but the relationship piece kicked in. And it's
Yeah.
so easy for the divorce community to get left behind or ostracized in the religion aspect. And it shouldn't be that way. It should not be that way. But truly, that's when I stepped into a relationship, when it really understood, this is what you mean.
Absolutely.
All those
And
years of going to church.
I, I tell people all the time, because of course I get a lot of flack because they're like, but you don't go to church every Sunday, or you don't do this and you don't do that. I said, but here's the thing. I have such a powerful relationship with my creator that we have conversations every day.
Day,
I
yeah.
have praise and worship every day throughout the day. I don't minimize it to a particular place at a particular time. It's
Hmm.
all the time. It's every day. It's in me. It's one of those things where I move, breathe, operate in that place, even in the moments when I'm not the most graceful, the most gracious. If I say a bad word or all those things, it doesn't change my relationship.
No.
And I think people miss that so often. And it's unfortunate because in many ways the church abandons us for a lot of reasons. Divorce is definitely one of them. And I
Hmm.
think we miss the mark on really showing people grace and mercy.
Yep.
But then I'm like, you know what? If you don't understand the principle of grace, then you can't extend grace. And
Exactly.
grace comes from understanding and having a relationship.
And having that relationship, absolutely. Because whatever reason your marriage failed, like you said, God doesn't even he doesn't want you to be with a unfaithful man. he doesn't, yes, he speaks about not being equally yoked, and how that comes into play and can be a demise of a relationship. I understand that firsthand. And that's why it took me such a long time before I jumped back in, because I had made all these lists, and they're great. But it got to a point where it was just one wounded bird after another. I mean, I was like, okay, Lord, like, enough with the wounded bird project. I'm done teaching someone else now. Like, can you just send me someone who is whole? But it wasn't until I was clear, crystal clear on what my fundamental non-negotiable was, that
Yeah.
every other superficial thing fell into place. And that to me was to be equally yoked. And what equally
Yes.
yoked meant to me, because it's different for everyone, but what it meant to me was, when the tough gets going, we get on our knees.
That's right.
That God is a part of our daily conversation, that He has an active relationship, not religion, an active relationship with God the Father. And He can articulate that, not just in words, but that I can see action that goes behind that. And that God is the center of everything that we do. And by that, I knew that He would be able to love me the way that I deserve, but that He would also be able to be a mentor, a father figure, because my boys do have a dad who is involved in their life. And we're blessed that we really do have a good, healthy co-parenting web between the four co-parents. We do, which is a blessing. It was work to get there. But that He can love my boys individually and uniquely.
Yeah.
And I got that, but I needed to be clear on one thing. I would not settle, was that equally yoked piece. Because of who I am and who I came to be in my faith, I needed a man that was going to be the head of my household and be a stronger tower than myself. Because,
Yes.
I wanted to be that submissive wife, but not in a sense of weakness, but because I know who I am and I know my power in who I am, that I'm willing to partner with someone to lead the way, and I will follow. Because it's
Right.
exhausting leading the way for the last 10 years.
Oh
It's
my gosh. I
tiring.
tell people all the time, I'm like, listen, for the longest, and my husband, he was like, well, I never knew that you wanted to be, led in that way. I was like, bruh, I've done the independent thing. Like, I'm
Yeah.
good. I'm good. I came into this marriage with children. I came into this marriage, you know, having to take care of myself, my children, our needs, and things like that. I'm good at that. I can handle that. Let's talk about how you can guide this stuff, because
Yeah.
I'm listening on that part, because
Yep.
many of them, but a lot of them say that they don't recognize that because they are not ready to be that type of leader. And so
Mm.
if you're not ready to lead, then just back away, just
Then,
back away.
yeah, then you a wounded bird, and my God is gonna show me, like, okay, enough of the wounded bird project. Like, come on, Lord, seriously. I was like, Lord Jesus, come on.
Yes,
No more
I
wounded
get it.
birds.
I get it. I get it. I absolutely do. I absolutely love, love, love chatting with you. You're a beautiful spirit, just a beautiful person. And what you're doing for women is so powerful. It's empowering, but it's powerful, because
Yeah,
there's nothing more impactful than knowing who you are after
yeah,
part of your identity in many senses of the word has been stripped, because now
yep,
you're dealing with, okay, who am I by name, who am I on paper, who am I, in this different
yeah,
space. And now to have a place in the network that ensures that, baby, you're still who you are. You've
yes,
always been who you are. Now let's rediscover how we're going to brand who you are, so that. And I think
exactly.
that's really important, and I'm so excited to just
Yeah,
have this opportunity to share you in
thank
this
you.
way. This is truly amazing. Tell everybody how they can find you, or what's the best way to reach out to you if they have questions about just dialogue or want to connect with you.
Yeah, so before I answer that, what you said is so on the money. It's so pivotal to knowing who you are. And
Yeah.
I would even take it a step further. When I understood who I am in who I am and whose I was. Game changer, complete game changer.
Absolutely.
And for women to just to know that who you are in him and whose you are far outweighs any kind of maverick journey that you need to go on. So anyway, I digress. How they can reach me is Janice Daphne 139 for the psalm that you quoted earlier on. For I praise him, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. So it's after that psalm. So Janice Daphne 139 at gmail.com. I do have an Instagram. It is under Just Dialogue. I started that during the pandemic when I lost my father, and I would dialogue my physical journey that I took in my healing process, in my grieving process. But I have to be honest, ladies, I'm not diligent with it. But it is a public account. You can reach me on that. I have a private account too, Janice.Daphne. But I'd say the best way to reach me is probably through email, even though I would respond to you absolutely. So yeah.
Yes. Okay. So last question. I'm so
Yes.
excited because I love asking all of my interviewees these questions. And it's always interesting to get or hear what everybody says. So tell me one word that affirms who you are.
So I would say authentic. I would say absolutely unequivocally authentic. I went between resilient and authentic because I certainly have journeyed the journey of resilience and still
Absolutely.
do. Um, but I'm gonna say authentic because what you see is what you get. There's no hidden anything behind you. I'm at a stage in my life where I truly believe show up who you are. Because when you do that, when you show up authentically who you are in your God image self, I give you the opportunity, Michelle Renee, to show up in the same way,
Yes.
and it just disarms any facade, any mask, so we can be real. And in
Yes.
that moment of being real, it comes back to the spirit of Ubuntu. I am because you are. The God in me
Yes.
recognizes the God in you. When I'm authentic, what you see
You
is
can be
what you
too.
get. No
Yeah.
agendas. You can be too. Now, how you show up, that's on you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I have the opportunity to create the space for you to show up that way. And if you don't, okay, doesn't always go that way. I know how to adjust me, but I'm not going to change who I am, if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. That's the space I operate in, is that authenticity and transparency. I'm just going to give it to you as I am because
Yeah.
that's all I have. And it's too frustrating and it's too exhausting to try to be somebody else. I can just be
I'm
me.
I lived that in my 20s.
Yes,
When I
absolutely.
was all fluff, when we were all fluff and our boobs were up here and we had like perky butts and nice perky tatas. Yeah, no, that was in the 20s.
Now
This
it's
is
just, hey, you gonna get what you get
this
and throw a fit about it.
and not only that, girl, as soon as we done here, the first thing that's going is my bra because I believe in fraying the tatas.
Yes, yes. So listen, you already know we love these conversations. We love these girl chats. And I'm so honored, like I said, to have been able to spend this time with you. Thank you so much for honoring me for being a part of this platform. And shout out to Marana, who's my brother, who connected the two of us. It just lets you know that how easily relationship can be built. You don't have
Yeah,
to know people for decades. You don't have to know people forever to build
yeah,
relationship and to
it's
build
true.
a tribe of women that are able to support and empower you and help build onto what it is that you're doing. So y'all go. And even though she's not that active on Instagram yet, I'm going to say yet because we're going to get her
Yes.
there. We're going to build that community there.
Yes,
Go
we are.
follow
Yes,
her
we
at
are.
Just Dialogue on Instagram or Janice.Daphne on Instagram. And let's pour into this ministry of just supporting women in the journey that they're in,
Yeah.
and just keep being who you are. And thank you so much for being in this space with me and just shining a light and being who you are. I absolutely love it.
So can I turn it back on you now? Can I give you some love? Can
Sure.
I? All right. Thank you. You are such an amazing soul. You have such a warmth to you, and you are right where you need to be. And the essence, how you show up in your truth, and transparency allows for this community to flourish.
Thank you.
You are the force behind it, and your beauty is just breathtaking,
Thank you
breathtaking.
so much.
So thank you for honoring your God-given voice and doing what He ordained you to do, because you can see the difference you're making, and how you connecting women, and the platform, and the spotlight that you are sharing, on women, are going to change communities, and not only communities, but think of the next generation, right? I truly believe that we always highlight or create a space for the woman that is coming up behind us.
Yes, and
And
I've
that's
got four little
exactly,
ones that I'm four
and
little
you're
women.
doing that. And you're
Yeah,
doing that. You are creating that for who's coming up behind you. So thank you.
absolutely. Thank you so much. Guys, you heard it. Make sure you like, subscribe, share this interview. Listen, you've got friends that need to hear this, that are too afraid to ask for community. They're too afraid to say that they need support in this journey that they're going on or
Mm.
that they're preparing to go on. She's the person to help navigate it. Go get the book.
Can't
Refer
wait
your
to
friend.
meet you.
She's anxious to meet you and to help you on this journey. And I'm just so, like I said, I'm so blessed to just be able to share this space with you. I
Oh,
love you and
thank
I'm
you.
grateful for you.
Thank
Guys, whatever
you.
you do, no matter what you're doing, by all means, protect your energy and protect your peace. And you have a
Absolutely.
wonderful evening. Come back and see us for our next interview. I can't wait to highlight somebody else, guys. Thank you.